All right, so we're going to get started, and I guess what we can do is start with introductions. And I'll start with myself, Carlton Jones, Redistricting Fellow with the Power Coalition, and I'll hand it over to my other fellows to introduce themselves as well. And then I'll kind of go into what the Power Coalition is, what it's about, and also acknowledge some of our staff that may be on or that participate in this as well. And then we'll get started with our presentation shortly after. So if Carlos, you want to get started, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carlos Pollard. I am one of the Redistricting Fellows for Power Coalition, and I will pass it to Ms. Lisa.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Tompkins, and I'm one of the Redistricting Fellows in North Louisiana, based out of Shreveport. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa. Carlos. If you can see our pretty pictures here on the screen to get started. But I also want to acknowledge and also let everyone know what we're here for, and that's for the Power Coalition. And if you don't know what the Power Coalition does, we're a coalition of community-based organizations who work together to educate and empower voters across Louisiana. Through our voter engagement and community organizing work, we seek to unify our collective voices into a stronger, more cohesive force that can successfully advocate for an agenda of shared values and issues. And a lot of our information can be found on the website at powercoalition.org. Let me also go and acknowledge a few of our team, starting with our illustrious Ashley Shelton, founder, president, and CEO. We have Janae Jameson, who's the director of programs. We have Denisha Hugel, Data and Targeting Director. Morgan Shannon is a Director of Strategic Partnerships. Candace Baptiste is Community Organizer. We have Georgia Barlow, Executive Research Analyst. We have Caitlin Joshua, who's a Community Organizer. Taylor Hodge on the ones and twos, Program Coordinator. Caitlin Douglas is a Volunteer Coordinator. And then you have us three, the Redistricting Fellows. So just a little briefly of our team. So again, you can find this on the powercoalition.org website. And today we're here to talk about redistricting. And let's get started. First, let's go over a timeline. September 30th, 2020, census data collection ends, and the U.S. Census Bureau collects population data once every decade. I think that's already happened. December 31st, 2020, the census data is sent to the White House. September 30th, the census data is sent to the states. And October 21st to January 22nd, legislative redistricting roadshow. And that's something we'll discuss maybe a little bit more later as we get into our presentation today. But just a little quick timeline. And that also includes February, the special legislative session where they make all the big decisions to come. So just be aware of this timeline, those dates, and how those play into the redistricting process. We just mentioned the roadshow. Here are a list of the dates for the Redistricting Roadshow. Just recently had the opportunity to testify at the Lafayette Roadshow, and one of my cohorts, Lisa Tompkins, has been in Shreveport doing her magic as well, testifying on behalf of the Power Coalition and of course the communities in those areas. So definitely want to keep you informed. That's part of what we do. That's part of what we're about that we talked about. The road shows are across the state. So far it's been Monroe, Shreveport, and Lafayette, but we have plenty more to come. November 9th is going to be Alexandria. November 16th is going to be in Baton Rouge at my alma mater, Southern University. Tuesday, November 30th, it's going to be in North Shore and Covington. Wednesday, December 15th, it's going to be in Lake Charles in Southwest Louisiana. And in January, we're going to do New Orleans and Thibodaux. And last stop will be Baton Rouge at the state capitol. So, and again, early 2022 will be the legislative session where they'll make all the big decisions moving forward on how our state is going to be viewed and shown for years to come. Again, so let's get started. Redistricting is the process by which governments redraw political districts. It applies to all levels of government where district elections are held, including U.S. House of Representatives, Louisiana State Senate and House, state and local school boards, state Supreme Court, local juries, parish, and city council. And as you can see, it was a nice, colorful presentation. Political districts are supposed to accurately reflect how populations have changed statewide and locally over the past decade and provide fair representation to each individual and group. There are three basic redistricting principles. Continuity. Every district has to remain connected. They can't jump from one place to another. Compactness. With few exceptions, districts shouldn't be drawn in extremely odd shapes. And number three, communities of interest. This one can be very subjective and is the most controversial. Generally, districts should try to keep populations that share interests, i.e. fishing communities, together as much as possible. And as I go through this, if you guys want to chime in, Lisa or Carlos, feel free to as we run through these slides.
I was glad you said that because I was going to talk about why redistricting is important, and that's on the next slide.
Oh, perfect timing, perfect timing. All right, I'll let you go, please.
Okay. Redistricting is important because it plays a critical role in who runs for office, who is elected, and how they vote once they're in office. And think about it, how often do we go and vote for our representatives, our legislature officials, our city council people, school board? So yeah, redistricting is very important and plays a big role in that. It's one of the most important factors in determining who represents you. Now, your local, state, and federal elected representatives make decisions that impact your everyday life, like economic opportunity, healthcare, schools, roads, and so much more. The makeup of a district can significantly influence how and whether elected officials respond to a community's needs. Redistricting only happens once every 10 years. That's usually after the census data is distributed. And y'all know about the census. We fill out that paperwork every 10 years as well. And this policy impact can last even longer. We can't miss this chance to demand fair and representative districts. Now, how does redistricting work? The U.S. Census Bureau collects population data once every decade during the years that end in zero. That data is then sent to each state, which uses it to inform the redistricting process. So y'all remember seeing all those commercials and advertisements, go fill out your census paperwork, go fill it out? That's why, so we can get accurate numbers. Now, how does redistricting work? The Louisiana legislature holds public meetings on redistricting. These meetings are usually run by the two committees that oversee redistricting in the legislature. That's the House and Governmental Affairs and the Senate and Governmental Affairs. Now, the state legislature relies on census data, public input, and experts to draft the district maps. Now, we were talking about all the roadshows recently. That's where you guys come in with that public input. And we'll talk a little more about that later. Now, the House and Governmental Affairs Committee and the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee each hold hearings on the proposed district maps. Any proposed map must be approved by a majority of the committee members in order to go to a vote on either the House or the Senate floor. When either the HGA or the SGA pass a map, it goes to a vote on either the House or the Senate floor. When a majority of each chamber then approves a map, the two different versions, the House version and the Senate version, must be reconciled to create a single map that needs to get approved by both chambers. The final map goes to the governor's desk to be signed or vetoed. So remember, we were talking about how voting does affect. So whoever's in office that you voted for governor, he or she is the one that can sign or veto that last map. Once the legislature agrees on a map, it is sent to the governor, again, who can approve or veto it. If the governor and legislature can't ultimately agree on a map, the state Supreme Court takes over the redistricting process.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa. That was pretty good on how redistricting works. And you follow along as she was speaking. We have the slides go along as well. But next, we've got the majority minority districts. And I've got Carlos here to kind of walk us through this part.
Yes, hello everyone again. I am Carlos Pollard, one of the Redistricting Fellows. And today we're gonna really understand the majority minority district. So this is a district where one or more racial, ethnic, and or religious minorities make up a majority of the local population. So majority minority districts is almost 38% of the population. So almost 38% of Louisiana population is non-white. There's 32.2% Black and 5.5% other. And with that information, only one of our state's 6 congressional districts is majority minority. That is 16.7% of representation. So majority minority districts are districts where more than 50% of the population is people of color. So our state level, of the 105 state house districts that we talked about earlier, only 29 are majority minority. That's only 27.6% representation. But remember, 38% of Louisiana's population is non-white. And for our state Senate districts, only 10 of the 39 districts are majority minority. So that's 25.6 representation. State level, again, only one of the 7 districts that hold seats of the Louisiana Supreme Court are majority minority. That's 14.3% representation. So for representation, let's kind of like dissect that. Representation is someone that's gonna represent you, advocate for you, and make sure that you have those necessary resources in your community. So if we're only allowing to have one seat out of if we're only allowed to have one seat out of the 7 districts that hold seats in the Louisiana Supreme Court, that is a lack of representation in our communities. Only 2 of the 8 BESC seats are majority minority. BESC is the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. And only 1 of the PSC seats is majority minority. That's 20% of representation.
Thank you, Carlos. And great job working through the majority minority districts and explaining representation and some of those acronyms as well. Next we have, and I'll walk through this and anyone else can chime in as well. We're kind of going to maybe some terminology with gerrymandering, what that looks like, and drawing boundaries of political districts in a way that gives one political party an unfair advantage over its rivals, or that dilutes the voting power of members of ethnic or linguistic minority groups. And there are a couple of examples here, as you can see on the presentation. 60% blue, 40% orange in the precincts, or 5 districts being split up. These are gerrymandering examples. Cracking is diluting the voting power of a group of voters across many districts. And again, we have some examples here. Competitive cracking over 4 district examples. And again, cracking, concentrating a group of people in one district to reduce their voting power in other districts. 2 examples of that scenario here to the right. Okay. Now, non-retrogression. Again, we're just kind of working through some terms. Ensuring that there is not reduced voting strength of a racial or ethnic minority because of redistricting plan. There's also efficiency gap. Difference between the 2 parties, wasted votes divided by the total number of votes in a highly competitive district. There we go. In a highly competitive district, the efficiency gap would be 0 in a district with severe packing of one party. There would be a high efficiency gap because the winning party would have wasted votes that are not needed to win the district. And this is an example of efficiency gap. I got ahead of myself earlier. 20 orange voters, 30 blue voters, 3 cracked districts, 2 packed districts. You know, as you work through this example, different scenarios, and that we talked about with our vocabulary earlier on ways to gerrymander or cause inefficiencies within the voting process. Vote dilution. When a group's voting power is reduced because they have either been packed into a limited number of districts, or their voting power has been cracked and dispersed across several districts. Prison gerrymandering. Prison gerrymandering is the act of counting incarcerated people in the jurisdiction where the prison is located instead of their home community. Incarcerated people do not have the right to vote in Louisiana, creating disproportionate representation for people that live in districts with prisons. And here we're just giving an example of House districts examples. House District 69, District 29, Jordan, 79.3%. And again, this is just in those districts that could be made majority or minority if combined or withdrawn. So I won't go into specifics about each of the percentages, but this is just a district example of the way you can manipulate the map and what districts can gain or lose votes in order to make a majority or minority. And this is just some more House district examples. So.
Yeah, those are the House district examples in Monroe and Northeast Louisiana area, the 5th Congressional District. And those are the areas that we covered in the Roadshow last week, so you can see the disparity there.
Oh, Shreveport area, that's yours again, Lisa?
Yes, that's my area as well, and I'm familiar with all these representatives. And there was a significant population increase, and that's something we can discuss later on as well. So this is a district that we're really going to have to do some work on.
And Carlos is mainly in the New Orleans district, and this is a representation of his area. I don't know if he had any comments on this, but then again, example of a couple of the districts in his area, the percentages and where we can make some changes.
Yeah, just like Carlton said, these are just some districts that we could create change and really advocate for fair maps. So these are districts that we're going to be looking close into to make sure that we get those fair maps that we are advocating for the whole state.
So thank you guys. We've kind of gone over a little bit of process, some vocabulary and some terms, and kind of step one in redistricting process and the education part. Particularly, this would be a scenario of a Redistricting 101 presentation, just getting groups of interest, faith-based groups up to speed on the redistricting process. And you can find all of this information at powercoalition.org. So I'll turn it over to my fellows if they have any questions or comments or statements they'd like to make as we move forward or work through our presentation.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and add a few things. So what's really important is the fair maps, because I just want to stress one more time that we will not draw lines again for 10 years. And these lines that we are drawing, we are trying to advocate for fair maps, get necessary resources are living in this state, because the census shows that there's an increase in minority communities. So we want to make sure that we have fair maps, because the next census is 2030 and the next redistricting is 2031. So I've been saying this all the time. I will be in my 30s the next time that we do any form of redistricting work. So I want to stress that we want you all that's on Facebook Live, you all that's currently on Zoom, to get involved in this process, to come out and testify for fair maps. I know it can be a little nervous. I'm a little nervous right now because it's my first Zoom Facebook. So excuse my nervousness, but it can be nervous, but you have to kind of just step into that uncomfortable field and allow yourself to grow. So if this is something that you know for a fact that you want to advocate for, reach out to Carlton, Ms. Lisa, or myself, and we can train you to testify. We can walk you through writing a testimonial for when you do come with us to testify. This is a community, and one thing for sure, what we are doing, and we are building community. We are building more coalitions to advocate, to show up, and to show out. We're not going to let any system quiet us. We're not going to fold. We're going to go ahead and push those barriers, because that's what we are here to do. So again, I just want to advocate for you all. I want to be there. I want to show up for y'all. So show up for me and come testify, get involved in the redistricting process, because it's something that we will not see for another 10 years after this.
And could I say something to our guests that we have on with us on the Zoom call? If you can go into the chat and just tell us where you're from, and if you need to reach out to one of us in our respective areas, don't hesitate to put a contact information. We're going to put our contact information in chat so you can reach out to us individually if you have any questions as well.
Now, I do want to open it up for those who are on the Zoom or in the chat. If you have any questions or comments as you follow with us, do you have any questions or any information to add on redistricting process or examples of stories from your areas? Now's the time to come off of mute.
Go ahead, Ms. Precious.
So one of the things I saw you guys at the Roadshow the other day, and that was actually my first introduction to the prison gerrymandering. I didn't know that even existed. So, thanks to you guys and the vote team for raising that issue. But one thing about my congressional district is that my parish is St. Landry, and there's a tiny tip that crosses into St. Landry. I was registered to vote at my mom's house, and I was in District 5, and she lives maybe 10 minutes away, and now I'm in Congressional District 4, and neither one of them, they don't have meetings down here. They don't come to Lafayette, and this is a very real consequence to folks in my area not filling out the census. And I just, thank you guys for the work you do in trying to educate the folks. And there's that. And then even, at the Roadshow, there was lots of support given for District 22. I'm actually in District 24 for I think that's is that the state representative or the House? They didn't want to be split up, right? But my parish
in Lafayette, right? That was Lafayette.
Yeah.
Okay.
My parish is split up like 5 different ways, right? We don't have one person to represent us, and definitely the minorities in our area are not heard. They're an additional number in the congressional districts, for sure, and the other one. So it's really interesting to me that they all banded together and was like, oh no, we don't want you to do to us what was being done to other for decades at this point. But I don't know how to, I know that you guys mentioned that you had submitted maps that I believe supported the majority minority district, but I don't know what that looks like, and if that includes my parish and my area. I would think it probably would, because St. Landry Parish is poor, and Opelousas in particular is majority African American as the city, and so even coming further down into the districts as far as the city and the parish council and the school board, there's a power imbalance, right? Because, I'm gonna just say it, white flight from the city, there's more affluential people who live in a parish that surrounds the city, and the city suffers for it. That may be a little bit outside the room, but those were just, some of my thoughts. And, thank you guys for your work in educating the populace, myself included.
Thank you, Precious. You must have heard my wonderful presentation for the Lafayette Roadshow. I give Carlos mentioned being nervous. Luckily I wore a suit because it was they're prepared when you come to those meetings, so they're looking for some professionalism. Just a heads up, a lot of people are dressed up. So if you want to go to testify, be presentable, and speak your mind, speak for equity and justice and what you believe in. And you're right, that it was several parish leaders that came together for one particular story. And that was another thing that as we walk through different groups, not only just doing Redistricting 101, not only just going through the data, but telling your story. And Precious, you kind of hinted at that in your document. Telling some type of story and how to tie the data to a story is very critical in getting your message across. So really look forward to working with you in that area too. So I'm working in Washington Parish now. We're working on some maps similar. So be sure to reach out to us, and maybe we could see on maybe some recommendations in your area as well.
This is Lisa. I did sit up and watch that Lafayette. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But I was just taken aback by that group that came up basically saying, leave the maps alone. We're fine the way that they are. And I'm just like, seriously? I'm just seriously. And that's the attitude that I've encountered on the road shows that I've been at. Leave the maps alone. They're fine. Even though the minority population has increased over the past 10 years, it seems like the other side is content with the way things are. Well, we're not. So that's why we're here, to make a change and make it fair for everybody.
And I just want to go ahead and add to that. So as you all just heard, groups are coming or testifying saying that they are okay with the maps that we currently have. But you all just saw maps that we are currently looking at to edit and to present to have a fair to have fair maps. That means that if they're showing up, we have to show up. And I just want to stress one more time, you're not alone. Like, you have us, and then you also have everyone that's on the Facebook Live. You have everyone that are participants right now in this Zoom. You're never going to be in the fight alone. It's all of us, and I'm always on the front line. So let's just do it. Like, what do you have to lose? Let's just do it.
Exactly. Frankie Crosby here. Can I say something?
Absolutely.
I plan to be at the St. Tammany Parish workshop. I also would like to testify. I recently was elected to the Washington Parish School Board, District number 8. I am a member of DPEC, and I recently was the chairman of the recall petition for an alderman for the city of Franklinton, for an individual who has not lived and does not live in town for the past 3 years, but he's been serving on the council. And so Governor John Bell Edwards signed the proclamation, and we will have an election to remove him March 22nd of next year. So the district that I serve on, the Washington Parish School Board District, is so gerrymandered to the point to where on one side of the street are my voters, and on the other side, it belongs to another district. However, I think that was done to satisfy the federal court in making sure that out of 9 districts, at least 3 of them will be predominantly African-American. But there's got to be a better way.
That's Washington Parish, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm working with Ms. Debbie McLeod. We're co-patriots out here.
Okay. Yeah, I know Debbie well. I just sent in the data for her.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you for that.
Yep, the data. And so, we talk about walking it through. So we did our District 101, and you guys are a good group to work with. And District 101, then we did the data, and we broke down by precinct and identified the different precincts. And, once you get into that, it's very interesting, for a precinct to lose hundreds of votes. And we're working on this one, particularly in Venado, where they, there's a prison, how do you lose, half the population, I guess, or 80% of the population over a 10-year period? That's kind of weird. So
right.
When you look at the data, it kind of helps identify some of those things and, get to it before somebody else does, or you have an opportunity to correct it. So that's just something very interesting. It's, I like looking at the numbers, and you guys on Washington Parish are working towards that as well. So.
Yes, sir.
I just thought about something Mr. Crosby said, that they wrote a letter to the governor, and I'm looking at the screen to discuss the different strategic ways that we can do this, and letters to the governor is one of them, and the coffee chats is listed right before that. That's what we're doing now. So we're just trying to get the word out. You guys are here today. If you all can spread the word to some of your friends that are interested in the same thing. We will be in touch with you, scheduling more of these coffee chats. But like I said, we put our information in the chat so you can reach out to us individually to do some more of the strategic things, working with us, having a meeting with the demographer if necessary, having your own private Zoom sessions or meetings with people in your communities. I'm working with some of the neighborhood communities here in Shreveport who are scheduling meetings right now. So I can get them acclimated and get ready for this meeting in February.
And both me and Lisa have done testifying. I know Carlos is on deck too, and Frankie looks like you're going that way as well. But another thing we want to push is doing the testimonials. It's very easy. You show up, you sign a card, and they will call your name. I think that they pretty much have to go through all the cards. So you have an opportunity to speak, and I take advantage of that to get on record. I think that's the key part, to be on record with what you feel is important to your group or your community. So if you've got any questions about that process, please let us know again. To get the testimony. That's something else we want to push to. The more we speak, the more they hear us, and the more it'll stick with them as they go through the roadshow.
And I'll be sure to see you out there, Mr. Crosby. I'll be out there testifying as well. And I'm also currently working with the group, Louisiana Women's Voter in St. Tammany, their chapter. So I'm actually preparing them to testify there as well. So you're gonna have a community there right behind you.
Good, good. I've got to get my my paperwork in for the mini grant before that time frame expires. But I'm looking forward to being there.
Well, Frank, you're right on time. That's a good transition for mini grants. And I don't know if you can see my page up here, but I have our mini grant page. So feel free at this powercoalition.org/power districting grant and check it out. We've got a little video. We've got some information on how to apply, and just walks you through it very, very nicely. Our team does a really good job of putting these together. So it's very straightforward, very simple questions and answers.
Yes.
And we really look forward to hearing from Grant. And Frankie, I want you guys to do it for sure. I know y'all, so y'all need to make sure you do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anybody else on the chat want to?
Yes, Cora Lester asks, what do the testimonials entail? So they are basically a safe space for people in those communities wherever the testimony is held. So the next one is in Alexandria, I believe. For the people in those communities to come and testify for the maps that they would like to have in their communities. You testify in front of the state legislative, so because those are the people that are prioritizing maps, and those are the ones that are going to be submitting the maps on behalf of the state. So you testify in front of the state legislative on the maps that you would like to have. And our agenda is pushing fair maps for the state of Louisiana.
Ms. Cora, when I did my testimony, I personalized it. I'm a lifelong resident of Freeport. I let them know that I voted in every election. I'm very active in the community. And basically, I wasn't hinting at, I'm the reason that you're sitting in that seat because I vote. But I kind of did. But that was also a segue to let them know, because I voted for you, I have faith in you to make the right decisions. I also provided a little statistical information that I did in my research. And again, if you want to reach out to any of us about putting together a testimony, we can provide you with some of that information and help you put your testimony together. It's not difficult. And Carlos says he's shy, but you know what? I think he's going to be the breakout star out of the three of us when he gets up there to start testifying. But by all means, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you want to do something like that.
And just to chime in, I brought up the testimony guide on the Power Coalition website. So you can click on the redistricting, real easy power testimony guide, and filled with a bunch of quick tips, authentic stories, some ways for you to kind of put together a testimony, because you want to have your voices heard. And this is the best way to do it, because you're in front of, numerous state representatives and state senators. And this is an opportunity for you to get in front of them and tell your story. I guess how we want to say it, to tell your story. And the more consistent we are, again, we're going to be at all the road shows, the more the story is going to stick. So just also refer to our website again for the power testimony guide. I'll try to put some of these in the chat for the Zoom, and maybe we can send those out later on the Facebook. But anybody else have any comments or questions or concerns regarding redistricting and how to contact us? We'll put all that information in as well. Anybody else have any questions that joined us on Zoom?
Let me add the Crowd Academy trainings. So these are also Redistricting 101 trainings that all of us attended as far as like the Power Coalition staff on here. And it is also open to the public. So you all can share this with your community members. You all can log on. The passwords are listed right under the link. And it's a Redistricting 101 introduction 3-day training that just broke down redistricting and really explain what it is, why it's important, and what communities are working. Because of course, this is a national project right now. And we are currently focusing on Louisiana because this is the state that we currently live in.
All right, you guys. I think Lisa, I'll leave you up. If you got anything else you want to say, or Carlos, we'll kind of make some comments here, and if you might want to chime in real quick, but we'll try to wrap it up. And I'll leave you to any quick comments or suggestions or powerful speeches. Now is the time as we wrap it up.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead. Janae put something in the chat, and I just want to go ahead and make sure I read it out loud so it can be in the recording as well. But voters should be able to vote for their candidate of choice, not elected leaders being able to choose their voters or constituents. This is why redistricting is important, because of course, representatives draw the lines. So they're gonna draw the lines that are gonna either put them back in office or help their party get back into office. But that's not how redistricting should work. Redistricting should work with the community public input in the beginning. That should be prioritized. So redistricting and voting goes hand in hand because, like Carlton mentioned earlier, voter dilution is very real. It is happening. So testify, build community with us, show up, just make sure your voice is heard.
And I just want to take the time to thank everybody for spending this time with us today. And again, if you have any questions, our information is in the chat. Reach out to us via email, and we will respond, and we can get you going.
Well, thank you. Y'all just gave me a little catchphrase for my presentation, my testimony: community-minded, not party-minded.
I might use that on a T-shirt, Frankie.
Yes, sir.
Community-minded,
not party-minded.
I'm still in that phrase.
Yes, sir. Community-minded, not party-minded.
I'm going to say it in Alexandria. Thank you.
Yes, welcome. We get it patent later.
Yeah, right. We'll take care of that part later. Okay. All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate everyone coming on.
Y'all have a great weekend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You guys have a good weekend, and thank you again. And we'll be back weekly or bi-weekly. Check for the next dates for the coffee chat. We'll be doing these more often to definitely get the word out. So thank you guys again.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.